Error 2009.
Yeah. Let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back though.
Well, I feel like I just want to preface with like what brought us here so that people kind of have an understanding, right, of how we ended up here. So it's like,
Do we want to start with a little tidbit of that?
yeah, maybe
Hey guys, I'm Kayla. I'm Megan.
Yeah.
This
is the village.
This is the village. We started this podcast because honestly, Megan's mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, encouraged us to do classes on how well we co-parent. That doesn't make us experts by any means.
No.
But I wish I kind of had a guidebook, a handbook on how to do this. So we thought it'd be a good idea for us to kind of come together and share this podcast with you.
Kayla and I are obviously close. Dan's my husband. I love them both. I see characteristics about each one, why they didn't mesh well together.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean either of them are bad people or don't deserve love or like, you know what I mean? So I appreciate that.
All right, let's just run through out loud.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome to The Village, the heartwarming and insightful podcast where two incredible moms come together to share their journey of navigating life, love, and the intricate art of blending families. Join us as we dive into the joys, challenges, and unique experiences that arise when two families become one. Hosted by Kayla.
That's me. And hosted by Megan.
That's me.
The Village offers a genuine and relatable space where we share our personal stories, triumphs, and lessons learned on the path of creating a harmonious and loving blended family. Whether you're a stepmom,
Bonus mom.
a birth mom, or simply someone interested in the beautiful chaos of family dynamics, this podcast is for you.
Each episode is a heartfelt conversation that covers a wide range of topics, from the everyday moments that bring laughter and tears to the more complex discussions surrounding co-parenting, step-sibling relationships, and building a strong foundation of love and trust. We openly explore the challenges we've faced, the strategies we've employed, and the unexpected joys that have come our way.
The Village isn't just about blending families. It's about the power of friendship, support, and sharing the journey with someone who understands. Tune in as we swap stories, offer practical advice, and invite experts to weigh in on subjects like effective communication, managing expectations, and nurturing connections in a modern blended family.
Whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a sense of community, The Village is here to remind you that you're never alone on this incredible journey. Subscribe now to join our community of fellow moms and let's mom together through the ups and downs, creating a tapestry of love and unity one episode at a time.
I mean, after all, it takes a village.
Oh yeah, and by the way, her ex-husband is my current husband. So I guess I'll kind of start with my story because mine started a little before you guys,
Sure.
right? Mm-hmm. Back in 2009, I had just turned 20 years old and I met my first husband. Very quick relationship and transition into being a mother.
We love that.
We do.
We've all been there.
Went from 20 years old in February of 2009, just me, myself, and I, to by January of 2010, I had a newborn baby.
Now, were you in high school in 2009? Or have you already graduated?
Okay. Yes. So I just feel like it's a weird transition of how to talk about this. So Jeremy and I met, we got engaged super quick. Within, I want to say 3 months, we were engaged. A month after that, I found out I was pregnant with Braden. So this was May of 2009. He returned from deployment and we got married in that July. And then Braden was here that following January.
So, and that happened quick.
Within a very short amount of time, I went from 20 and single to a mom. We moved to Virginia shortly after Braden was born. And then we were there up until he turned about 5. But before that, I had Emma in 2012, right?
Okay. And you guys were in Virginia because of the military.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we got stationed there. But before Emma even came, our marriage wasn't the strongest.
Sure.
So by the time Emma got there, things kind of took a turn and we basically decided to split ways. He went to Washington for a job because he'd gotten out of the military, and I went to Florida with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Within about 6 months of that, we were in the process of getting a divorce. We were separated. So that kind of started, I think, the toughest time in my life, being 20, I don't know, 6 maybe, having 2 kids under 6, and just kind of having to build up who I was going to be as a person.
Yeah.
I think anybody who is under 30 knows that you're a completely different person.
Oh, man.
The struggle. And so I had to figure out who I was on my own and being a mom, and kind of quickly transition into working and, supporting the kids on my own for a little bit. And then just a fun fact, we're not to Dan yet, but I knew Dan when I was 15. We met through church.
Okay.
So scattered throughout my life, Dan was around. 15, 18, we hung out for a little bit when I was 19, right before I met Jeremy. I was at Dan's 21st birthday, and then you guys met, and me and Jeremy met, and we both went our own ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yes.
That's fun.
So I think let's dabble a little bit in your story, because I
Sure.
your dates and my dates intertwine.
Yep. Just a
You'll
little bit.
kind of see it's interesting. We were kind of going through similar things, pretty staggered throughout
Yeah.
life.
And I think that's probably one point that kind of grew our friendship is, we've been through it. We've been through it, and we kind of been through it together. So my story, era 2010, so a year after you, Dan and I dated. So Dan is my ex-husband, and
My current husband.
yes. So Dan and I started dating in my senior year of high school. I graduated from high school. I remember it being in June, and I think it was probably on a Friday. And by that weekend, I was engaged. Knocking it out of the park real quick. So got engaged right out of high school, and I think graduated in June of 2010. Dan and I were married 2011. So quick engagement. The saying is true: young, dumb, and in love. That's
Yeah.
guilty as charged. So we got married in 2011, and then Landon, my oldest, was born in 2012. And 2013, things started going a little south. I think our first year was actually our easiest year. However, near the end of the year, we just weren't seeing eye to eye on a lot of things. I
Still
think
honeymoon phase.
a little bit. However, the honeymoon kind of was the Titanic, and it crashed. And so we just really weren't seeing eye to eye. I think I pictured life as, you're married, you have a kid now, like you got to buy a house and get a job and, do the thing, everything society makes you have to do.
I feel like you have to just
Feel like you have to do. You don't have to do that by any means. And I applaud Dan on the fact that he was like, no, I'm still chilling. I'm young. Like we are married. We do have a kid. And so just different views in life. So we separated for a little bit, but we definitely were still sleeping together. Hence where Lily came from, which is my daughter. 2014, Lily was born. Dan and I were separated, but we were really trying to work on things. At this point, we now had 2 kids. A lot of back and forth. It was unhealthy back and forth.
And you were 20 when you had Landon.
20 when I had Landon, and I was 23-ish when I had Lily.
So still baby.
So I'm still a baby, having babies. And so I finally told Dan I wanted a divorce. I wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. A lot of arguments. We were not happy people. And so we decided to split, and I threw out the D word, not the bad D word, but divorce. I threw divorce in his face, and I think that is when we really separated. He went with his parents, I went with my parents, and we kind of already started our co-parenting rotation with the kids. And I think that is about the time that you and Dan met. I've already filed paperwork at that point. I already,
Or remet.
rekindled the relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably a few months. And I think I decided, let me give it one more try. Like, let me give it my all. Can't say I didn't try. Counseling, we rented a home, things of that sort. And while we were separated, you and Dan rekindled that relationship that you guys have now. And found out about that and kind of lost my crap a little bit. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Just throughout the years of heartache and just it wasn't going anywhere north. It was going straight south really quickly. I said that was it. I think I remember texting you and saying, he's your problem now. Have fun. And through a lot of self-reflection.
Well, and let me back up 1 second.
Yeah.
I just forgot to throw this out there. At one point during your relationship with Dan and my relationship with Jeremy, we encountered each other.
Yeah.
Mutual friend. We were both pregnant with Emma and Landon. And fun fact, they're 14 days apart to the day.
So are they twins?
Basically. That's what I tell people.
Exactly.
So we were both pregnant at the time.
Yep.
And I recall us having conversations a little bit.
Yeah, like family friend conversations.
Yes, exactly. So you knew who I was. I knew who you were. And so I think that maybe made it sting a little bit more.
It did.
In that moment.
It did. It definitely hurt for a little bit, especially when your husband is friends with and it's a female friend and things of that sort. Of just kind of, what's funny is you say that, Megan and I were looking through pictures the other day and she found pictures of us completely. I was with Dan, she was with Jeremy, and our little babies are in the background of pictures. And it's so cute because now they're all grown. And so, and it was cute. So, so then around 2017, my divorce was finalized. Was your divorce finalized at that point?
I think it was. No, because mine was finalized after yours, but it was very short.
It was close.
Yeah, very close.
And then my current husband, Steven, kind of to the same situation of Megan and Dan. I've known Steven since high school. I'm really close with his sister, which is now my sister-in-law. No, I did not ask for permission to date Steven. Sorry, Danielle. However, just family friend, you just, show up and we rekindled our friendship with no intentions. We really just kind of were two cool kids hanging out. And that kind of sparked into something. And we got engaged in 2000. We're going to go to those notes here. We were married in 2019. I don't remember what year we got engaged. Let's say 2018. Married in 2019. And then we have the final kiddo to our whole village. And I say our because it does take a village. Camden, who will be 3 next month. He was born in 2020.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too. Like, we both went into these new relationships without the intentions of being in a relationship.
But I said I was not going to get married again.
Yeah.
I was going to just be the old single lady that lived in Riverside, and my kids came and brought me muffins for the rest of my life.
That would be it.
I was content with that.
Yeah. And I think that, like, after going through a divorce and having kids, like, it changes something in you, know? And I think that you don't go into anything like that, like, oh yeah, we're going to get married, And I think you knowing Steven and me knowing Dan kind of created that facade of like, oh, we're just friends. We're just hanging out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it went in innocent, and obviously it turned out the way it needed to turn out. But neither of us were seeking a relationship, which I think is really great if you think about it.
I think it's really funny, like, when your parents tell you, they're like, the best of right. Yeah. Friendships turn into relationships. Yeah. You need to be friends first.
It's true, though.
It really is.
It really is. If you have to enjoy that person's company, like, even in your worst days. So
yeah. And I think we were in our worst days when we rekindled those friendships.
Yeah.
With Dan and Steven at the time, and they brought joy to our lives, and they kind of sparked something I feel like maybe wasn't sparked in a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since high school.
Yeah.
Since we both started a little early.
Yeah. And I think we'll both kind of revisit this conversation more in future episodes.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Like and subscribe.
Exactly what she said. I think that I just lost my train of thought.
That's my bad. I think when we revisit these
conversations,
about sparking joy.
Oh, okay. No, I'm back. I got you. Just kind of like taking a look at each person individually. None of us are bad people. None of us didn't have the pieces of the puzzle we needed. It's just like not like where we were at that time. Like, we didn't bring out the best in each other in those other relationships, or we weren't compatible for whatever reason.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting, like, from my perspective, like, Kayla and I are obviously close. Dan's my husband. I love them both. I see characteristics about each one, why they didn't mesh well together.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean either of them are bad people or don't deserve love or like, you know what I mean? I appreciate that. So I think it's just interesting. Like, I think people will instantly go to like, oh, what did they do wrong? Or, you know, why are they getting divorced? And that's not always the case when you look at the big picture.
Yeah. And I don't think, I mean, Dan and I did mean things to each other. Like, we were dumb. And like you said, I think, you know, we'll talk on this in future episodes, but looking back, I'm like ashamed of how I was in my first marriage. Yeah. And it's tough. And I always tell, the kids are older, so to kind of give you a sneak preview, Brayden and Emma are how old?
So Brayden's 13. He's my oldest.
Yep.
And then Emma's 11.
And then I have Landon, who is my oldest. Lily is 8. And
almost 9.
Almost 9. That's where I was going to go originally, was 9. But she's 8 still. And then Camden is 3. So, you know, our kids are a little older. They're connecting the dots. They're putting 2 and 2 together. And
asking questions.
Oh, yeah. And I think we both can agree, and we can talk on how we parent it. But we're very honest with the kids. We don't really hold much back based off their age.
For sure.
And so when Landon always asked, you know, well, why did you and Dad get a divorce? I always tell him we were better friends than we were husband and wife. I enjoy Dan. Dan is a fun time. He's a genuine guy. Couldn't be my husband anymore.
Yeah.
Because we had such a horrible history together, and it just, there are things that Dan will do that I see that he does with you, and I'm like, don't you do that to my friend Megan. Don't let me get you. And so, you know, reeling it back to reality, neither of us did anything wrong. We're both decent people.
It's also timing too, right?
100%.
We're both kind of on the same page, and like obviously we can't tell anyone what to do. Probably not even our kids, but we don't suggest getting married young just from our experiences, right? And I know there are people out there who've gotten married young and they're still together.
And I applaud you all.
Yes, 1,000%. Like, round of applause. Yes. But I feel like for me, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like growth between 20 and now I'm almost 35, like I'm not who I used to be. I don't require the things.
No.
You know what I mean? The same.
Yeah.
And I think that like you have to really grow with that person on so many levels. And I think immaturity at that young age it's just not.
Well, you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You're straight out of high school. Your parents
100%.
still probably packed your lunch, and here you go the next day going off to get married.
All you're paying is gas and maybe your phone bill. Like,
I don't know. I miss those days.
Right?
Well,
yeah. Even now, like, I'm still working on my relationship with my ex-husband.
I think relationships are always going to be worked on. We're going to be in our 60s and still work. It's a job.
It is a job. Yeah. And I think that you have to be willing, and I'm still learning this now, that like, even though there are things that he did that hurt me and I felt like at the time caused us to take the road we did, I played a part too. You know what I mean? I wasn't always good at communicating my emotions. I wasn't always I didn't want to rock the boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm learning now you have to rock the boat. And if you throw that person off, they're not meant to be there. So,
no.
You know, and it takes a lot of time to figure it all out.
It doesn't. And it's not, Rome wasn't built in a day, and I don't think any co-parenting relationships are going to be built in a day.
No.
I think if I could, save any penny for your thoughts, even if you absolutely hate your ex-spouse, be selfless and not selfish, and it will benefit you more than anything in the world. And that's with any relationship.
Yeah.
I think friendships, spouses, your kids, that goes a long way. And they hurt you, I'm sure. Hurt sucks.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
However, I don't think there was a time where I hated Megan and I hated Dan for what happened. However, at the end of the day, it was hurting me more than it was hurting them. They were going on about their normal lives.
Yeah. Well, and how many awkward conversations have we had that led us to where we are?
Yeah.
Too? Like weird things. Perspective is different on the other side, right? So like where you saw from your point of view, it looked like sketchy what was going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've had conversations where you realize and it helps you heal. You realize that like things weren't what you thought they were. There was no ill will, there was no cheating, there was no bad intentions.
Yeah.
And that helps you too. Like, it was weird. You don't want to have that conversation with your husband's ex-wife, but it helped everybody progress to where we are.
And honestly, ladies, that sparked from having drinks at a local bar.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
I don't know what we were doing or what the guys were doing. I think we just
literally went and had drinks, and the guys were like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Who are y'all? Are uncomfortable. But
yeah, peppered rose.
Yes.
My favorite drink now.
The best.
That is the best.
The best. But I mean, I think it comes down to like being willing to look at like your faults too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I do want you to revisit a little bit though about your and Jeremy's, relationship, how things kind of ended, how the kids feel about it, things of that sort.
Okay. So take it back. Like I said, I was about 20 when we met, right? And it's funny looking back now. I'm not a very I think things out. And I don't know if maybe this is like a cause and effect situation, because now I think things out. But I feel like things just like transpired, right? Like there was no like, I don't want to say no thought put into it because that sounds hurtful, but there just wasn't a lot of like me thinking like anything was wrong, right? Like we met, we got along really great. We had a good time. He was active duty military at the time. And everything just clicked, right? So we, like I said, quickly got in a relationship. I don't even remember there being like a time frame between like us dating and us being boyfriend and girlfriend. Like I feel like it was just like instant.
Oh,
right?
yeah. It's the same.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't feel like there was any like, hey, will you be my girlfriend? It just like happened, right?
So this is a thing now?
Yeah. And he was not from Jacksonville. He was not from where we live. So, I kind of integrated him into our family, right? Like my friends, and I grew up here. So I had a lot of friends and my family was around. So him being military, he immediately integrated into my family, right? And I have a big family. I have 3 other siblings that are much younger than me. So he instantly became like big brother. And quickly after we got engaged, so I'd say we were dating, I think I said 3-4 months, got engaged. We knew he was going to be deploying shortly after that, so we were prepared for him leaving. And while he was gone, I missed my period. And this is how you know how young I was, right? I remember being at my grandma's kitchen table, and she had made dinner that night for my dad's birthday. It was meatloaf. I remember this distinctly.
Mom,
and
meatloaf.
I wanted to die because I was like gagging from the smell. And my mom is a nurse and has 4 kids, and one that is in heaven now. And so she's been through a lot of pregnancies.
Sure.
And she looked at me with this look on her face like, I'm going to murder you, right? And she's like, did you miss your period? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I didn't know. And that's how I was so immature. I was not prepared for what was going to happen. And sure enough, we went to Walmart, and I think I peed on about 10 sticks.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think at Walmart 1, and then I got home and I peed on a lot extra.
That's
to make sure.
You know what? I think I peed on a stick in Walmart too.
Yeah, it was very, very stressful. And I feel like very dramatically, like one drop of urine hit it, and it was like, yep, pregnant. And I was like, that's super pregnant. So that was interesting. I found out like on my dad's birthday, so it would have been
happy birthday
that year. Yeah. And we got married as soon as he got back from deployment, which was in July of that year. So July of 2009. And then Braden was here in January of 2010. And Jeremy was actually deployed again when I had Braden.
So no.
Yeah. So I'm 20 and having a newborn baby now by myself, which shout out to families, because my grandma was real village. Yes, literally. She really helped me. And side note, I had some like postpartum depression after Braden. So, which I didn't know what it was at the time.
No.
I just thought I was insane.
Yeah.
So, she helped me a lot with Braden at that point. And, it's just weird looking back on it, the life that I was living at that time.
Yeah.
Eventually, Jeremy came back, and we lived in barracks for a little bit, lived with my grandma. And then when he got stationed up in Virginia, we moved to Virginia. and we were there for quite some time. And then about a year or so after we moved to Virginia, I wanted to have another baby. I grew up 5 and 7 years older than my siblings and felt more like a parent to them a lot of times than a sister, and wanted to have another baby. And so we had Emma, and they're right at like 2.5 years apart. So at that point, from the outside, life looked great, right? We bought a new house in Virginia. We had, the dogs and the house and the cars. And at that point, Jeremy was on shore duty, so he wasn't leaving. He was working like a normal 9 to 5 instead of being gone for 3 months. But things were rough. And looking back, it was just, we were immature, right? I think that he wasn't completely happy and I wasn't completely happy, and we took it out on each other.
Yeah.
Right? I had a need to want to be near my family. He grew up in a military family, so I feel like that dynamic was a little different for him internally. So we struggled a lot with him wanting to move somewhere else, me wanting to come back home,
Yeah.
and that was a
That
continuous
causes tension in a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I was a stay-at-home mom too, so you factor in money and you factor in
Props to stay at home moms, man.
yeah, and I enjoyed it while I was doing it. Now I definitely couldn't do that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, props. But there's a lot of struggles that happen when you're in your 20s, right? And you're trying to be grown, and you're nowhere close to being grown, right? Things came to a head when he was getting out of the military, and he took a job in Washington State. So clear across the country from where my family was.
Beautiful state, though.
Yeah, beautiful. Been there now. Love it.
Yes.
But at the time, we just weren't financially stable enough, and honestly, when it comes down to our relationship wasn't stable enough.
Yeah.
And so we decided that I would go to Florida with the kids, and he would go to Washington for his job, and that once he got settled there, he would bring us to Washington. And I remember telling him right before we went our separate ways, I was like, if you go to Washington and I go to Florida, we're gonna get divorced. And he's like, no, we're not, and I'm sure at the time he believed that.
Yeah.
But I just knew that distance wasn't going to make things better.
Yeah.
So 6 months after he left, he asked for the divorce. So Emma was just at 3 years old when I moved back home to Florida, and Brayden was 5. Okay. So we were kind of in this funny in between where I was doing kindergarten with Bray for a little bit, like from home with my grandma's, and then Emma was just a little toddler running around.
Oh, cool. So you taught her a smidgen of your life.
A little small piece, because I didn't want him to be behind when he did get to go to kindergarten.
Well, Brayden's a genius now, so props. You started
It was all me.
Exactly.
Just in those 6 months.
It does count.
I mean, he just had my DNA, so that counts too.
Exactly.
Yeah. But once we knew that things weren't going to work out, once he asked for the divorce, and there was a in-between time where I wanted to stay together, and I was my parents were still married, so I had no idea what a divorced family looked like, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just panic for me. We went back and forth. We kind of did the same thing you and Dan did, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, well, I'll move back to Florida, and, we'll try again. And at that point, I think it had been going on for so long that I had just made up my mind that it wasn't going to work, right?
Yeah.
So he stayed in Washington, and we finally got the divorce, and we did it pretty amicably. There was no fighting.
No,
You know what I mean? We didn't disagree on anything necessarily. I had almost full custody just based on location, but it was, if he came into town, he could have him. There was no, animosity there. But yeah, so then we're looking at, I'm 26 at this point, and I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. Yeah. So tough. Yeah. So the beginning of a new era for me. I had never lived by myself. I went from my mom's house to Bo's house. And then right after, so Brayden was still 5 years old, we got our own house for the first time. And it was me and Bray and Emma. Yeah. And
good job, Mom.
And in our own house. And it was a really honestly fun experience. And even now, looking back, I love Dan and I love our family. But those were really good times of bonding the three of us. And there's occasions where I'm like, man, those were good times,
We had some short times too when we had the rental by ourselves, when I sent Dan. Sorry, Dan. Back to his mom's, and that was the final, and
boot.
Yeah, he did get the boot. But
Those were some good times. Like looking back, like the struggles, I think.
Finding yourself.
Yeah, 100. And you're finding your kids and what they like and don't like. I remember our first Christmas tree. Did you guys have a little Christmas tree?
Yeah, and I remember putting Christmas lights up on our first house.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't afford Christmas lights, but I did get my little Walmart tree. Shout out Walmart again.
Yeah.
And little ornaments. I still have some of those ornaments to this day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, luckily we've been blessed to buy a bigger tree and things of that sort. But this is small things.
It's like good, like,
to me, that little tree was 6 feet tall.
100%.
And I think Lily was taller than the tree.
rents were way cheaper back then.
Rent was so cheap.
Besides the point.
I couldn't be a single mom now. Props to
never
all you ladies out there. You guys rock.
Yeah, it's rough. And dads too. You know, I know that there's many dads at my work that have custody of their kids and stuff like that. And so any parent really who takes on those reins and
You guys
handles it, for sure. But but then fast forward, I guess I'll skip some of the middle stuff. But like you said, y'all's divorce was finalized in 17, right? So later that year is when we started dating. Like I said, Dan and I had known each other since we were teenagers. So we had some background knowledge of each other.
Sure. You weren't strangers.
We weren't strangers.
Met on an online dating app.
And it was the same. I would be single forever if I would do that. Just to throw that out there because I'm scared about being murdered. But we did have background knowledge of each other. The first time we hung out, zero intentions of dating. Yeah. Like he came over and just as an example, I let Brayden and Emma meet him because he was just my old friend from church. Yeah. Was coming over and we had dinner together and he hung out for a little bit and then he went home.
There you go.
And it was just hey, let's talk about our mutual situation we have going on.
Yeah.
We're both going through a divorce. We're both parents. This is really hard. Let's just talk it out, right? So we didn't label our relationship for a really long time. At the time, I thought Dan was a little crazy, but he was actually pretty smart when it comes to like labels bring expectations and expectations bring disappointment, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time I was like, you just don't want to be my boyfriend. But really it was right? So you set up an expectation and then you're let down because of that when in reality nothing really changed.
Yeah.
Right?
No, yeah.
So we were together for a long time before we were together about a year before we introduced the kids to each other.
Yep.
And I remember when I met the kids for the first time, I texted you. I remember having this like long conversation with myself in my head about, I'm a mom, Kayla's a mom.
Yeah.
Like this is, even though things are a little weird and this is awkward and she might feel some type of way, like as a mom, I think it's a mutual respect thing. Hey, I'm going to be around your kids.
Yeah.
I want you to know that like you can come to me. If there's something you disagree with, if there's something I say, if there's something I do that you don't want me to do, by all means tell me that. It won't hurt my feelings.
How did I respond? I don't remember that text.
I'm going to be honest. I think it was a very like, thank you so much. Like,
I was short.
It was very,
I was still bitter at that point. Probably.
It was very short and very simple, but it was respectful. It wasn't rude. But I felt like in my brain at that time, it kind of like broke that barrier a smidge.
I
you know what I mean?
That.
Yeah. And then, so we didn't get engaged until 2020.
Okay.
So 18, 19, 20, right?
Something like that.
So about 3 years we were together before we got engaged. And then we were engaged for like 18 months before we got married. No rushing around here.
No.
Do that. We don't do that. And we just eloped in the mountains and had a notary come and the kids were there.
Tell them what Dan made you for your elopement.
Some of the art?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So we had been planning a wedding for a long time, but we just kept coming back to the fact that it costs so much money, right? We're just paying thousands of dollars for a party and I'm a travel fiend. I'll be honest with you guys. I would spend my last dollar on a trip.
Yes.
So we decided, and it actually wasn't even planned. We tried to take the kids on a trip every year, right? To some fun place. And we had been kind of doing these winter trips for a while now to take the kids to see snow because we don't get snow. So planned a Airbnb for like a week and brought the kids up there. And I found out on the way up there that in Tennessee, it's like super cheap to get a marriage license. And I found a notary that would do like $75 and they would come do our
deal,
right? So last minute, we're like,
let's do it.
Cool, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We went to like Walmart and got wedding bands because
Walmart
again. Literally went to Walmart, got like really cheap, the best we could find wedding bands to suffice for the ceremony purposes. And then the night before the wedding, Dan literally wove this like tree branch arch over the porch that we got married on. So made it like very intimate and sweet. And the arch is one of the things we had been wanting to do the whole time. But when we decided not to do a wedding, it kind of like got rid of that idea. But then he made it happen like last minute, literally.
How awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yep. And then, so fast forward to now kind of a little bit. I
Yeah.
mentioned Cam. Dan and I still cam from time to time to fill our baby needs because we don't have a baby anymore. All of our kids are older and annoying. So yeah, so we bring things real weird over here.
Yeah.
And, we bring cam places like to like our side of the family's events, and they just assume he's coming now. They're like, so 5 kids? And we're like, yep.
Yep. Count us in.
Yep, exactly.
And Camden calls Dan Fred, Uncle Fred. And Megan is either Megan, or Mom. All 3.
Depends on the day.
Sometimes all 3 in the same day.
Yeah. And it's so funny because all the other kids will be like, Mom. Like they think it's so funny that he says that. But I understand it. Like it's funny because he hears the older kids call us Mom and Dad, right? So it's just
it flows
natural, for that.
And maybe we can talk about that in another episode too.
Going more into
titles.
Yes.
And how that flows into effect with co-parenting.
Yeah. So hopefully this gave everybody a good idea of like where we came from and where we're hoping to head and why we're here now. We just want to open the stage for conversation that people think is weird and uncomfortable.
Nothing weird and uncomfortable here.
No. Yeah, you can say anything you want to say.
Yeah.
We just think that this is what works for best for our family. We're not going to tell anybody that you have to do things the way that we do. We just hope that like you're able to transition your co-parenting relationship into something positive for your kids. We see every day our kids thriving based on our relationship. There's no getting anything over on anybody.
No, and I want to preface, our kids are not perfect.
No.
However, it takes, and I'm just throwing the pun in there, it takes a village. And to Megan's point, you know, we can't put anything over on anybody. We communicate homework and discipline and
everything,
all of it. So I think, you know, communication is key, and we can elaborate a lot on that. That's a full episode in itself.
Definitely, yeah, how we handle things. Yeah.
But we've shared this journey with each other since 2017, it sounds like, based off of our stories of co-parenting.
Well, I guess maybe slightly before that, maybe 16 as far as, no, I guess it would be 17, right? 17, yeah.
And we want to share it with you guys. You know, it's not easy. We don't want to make it look easy by any means.
So from here on out, we're going to be here for you guys, with you guys, hopefully helping each other out every other Wednesday.
Yes, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't make me say it again. Like and subscribe
right now.
Do it. You better.
And we
that was my mom voice.
And we just want to shout out our friend Addie with Over the Moon Designs.
Yes.
She made this beautiful sign for us today. So go head over to Instagram, check her out. Show some support.
Over the Moon Designs. She's a local woodworker.
She does all kinds of stuff though.
She does do amazing stuff.
I have it over here, but she made Stanley toppers.
She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Just go check her out. And then I don't want to end this episode without shouting out our village of sister-in-laws. Her current sister-in-law, and then my 3 sister-in-laws all texted us today just telling us to breathe and that they were excited for us. So yeah, we're super appreciative of them. This was the first episode, and we thank you guys for checking out the village.
We'll see you soon.